for context and appropriateness. After each applicant presents, we will hear then from the public and after that from the committee. We would appreciate comments and questions related to context and appropriateness and not to technical issues regarding building code, constructability, zoning, and the like. These technical issues are handled by other agencies and are not our purview. So Jordan Lee from CB8 will explain how the public can participate in the meeting.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. If this is your first time joining us virtually, you will notice that you are currently muted and everyone will remain muted throughout the meeting except the committee co-chairs, David and Jane, and any presenters as we move through the agenda. Following the presentations, the co-chairs will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by pressing the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen, not the wave or thumbs up, as those will disappear. Only press it once. If you press it a second time, your hand will go back down. If you're calling in on the phone, it is *+9 to raise your hand and *+6 to unmute. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the co-chair calls on you. The chat is available for technical support only to help with Zoom software problems, not to ask questions of co-chairs or the presenters. They will not see the chats. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you may need to find the React menu, Participants menu, or button that says More, where you'll find the raise hand feature in one of those. If you plan to speak during the meeting, it would help us if you would rename your device with your full first and last name. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you. Chat me, I'm here for support.
Okay, we're going to, go ahead, David.
No, I was just going to say, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the first application is 211 East 62nd Street, the Treadwell Farm Historic District, a no-style building constructed in 1872-73. The application is really basically to change the front entry doors and to replace the wrought iron balcony at the second floor. Is the applicant here? Jordan, do you see?
I'm not seeing the person that I specifically corresponded with, but if you are representing 211 East 62nd Street, please click the raise hand button there. Okay, I got one. So Mary.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Mary, are you going to do a screen share?
Yes, I can share.
Thank you.
Yes, and give me just a second to go ahead and enable screen sharing. All right, Mary, you should be good to go now.
Okay, we're calling it up. Okay, Jordan, can you tell me when you can see our screen?
I can see it.
Okay, thank you, Jane.
If you could speak a little bit more loudly, it would be great.
Is that better?
Yes, much better.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. I am Mary Langan from O'Neill Langan Architects, and we're representing for 211 East 62nd Street. The building, as you heard, is described as a no style. LPC has described it as neoclassical to us. The building was built as part of a row of brownstones, 207, 209, 211, 213, 15, and 17 were all built by MC Merritt for Thomas Kilpatrick in 1872 to 73. And this particular building was redesigned in the 20th century with this brick facade. We are seeking a certificate of appropriateness to replace the second floor balcony railing and to replace the the identical front door entry doors. There's security grills that have glass enclosures behind them. So we're going to replace both of those with two identical doors. Next slide. This is the location plan. So we are on 62nd Street, just to the east of 3rd Avenue. Next slide. The Sanborn map. Next slide. You can see here the existing facade. The first photograph, number 3, is as you approach the building from 3rd Avenue. You can see that it juts out in front of the facade to the west of it. You can see also the door is open in the middle of the photograph. The door is open. You can also see that there's two identical openings in the building, and I'll get to that when we look at the historic photos. The windows, I should add, are being replaced. It's a separate application that's been approved by Landmarks prior to this filing. The second floor Juliet balcony is in significant disrepair. The balcony itself is rusted out, and the existing railing is also loose and in disrepair. Next slide. This is the tax photos. As you can see in the photo on the right, the left entry door was did not exist. And it was added, we believe, at some point when the building was renovated. The building was converted to apartments. Eleanor Roosevelt presumably lived in the building at one point in one of the apartments. And at a certain point, the second entrance on the left, which leads to a service kitchen, was added to the building. So those two, the twin doors, were added at some point into the building. And at that point, those entry grates, we believe, were added. Next slide. This is a close-up so you can see on the second floor on the Juliet balconies, those medallions. There's one in front of each of the windows. Next slide. These are the south 62nd Street and the north on the lower 62nd Street, and you can see 211. It is a bit taller than the buildings to the east and west of it. Next slide. On 62nd Street, we've recorded several of these Juliet balconies that exist that have similar scroll work and railings similar to what we are proposing. The one that we are proposing has a new design that the owner would like to propose. And also the grille work on the front entry, we are showing these as examples that are similar to what we are proposing. Next. You can see that a lot of the railings in this district are fairly stock wrought iron pieces. This one photo number 3 is of note. It does have the medallion in the middle of it, which we thought was quite interesting, and also in particular to what we were proposing for our railing. Next. These are two examples that we worked with the staff at Landmarks on. They asked us to look for something because our building is so different than what is on 61st and 62nd Street. So they encouraged us to look elsewhere on the Upper East Side. So these were two building examples that we found in the neighborhood that we thought would be of interest because they had a similar brick facade. So the first one is on East 65th Street, and there's one on East 63rd Street. And they both spoke to us in that they had a more ornate railing and ironwork designs on them, as well as the grille work on the doors. So we're showing that in the photo on 7, and also the railing on 6, and also the design on 2. It's a little bit more ornate and in keeping with the facade style here. So we're showing this so that you might consider it as a good example with this type of brick facade, which is very much similar to ours. And it's something that's very different than what we see on the facade scape of 62nd Street. So next. This is the facade, the existing, drawing number 4. And drawing number 3 is the proposed. So we are proposing to put the railing back at the existing height that it exists now. This drawing has actually got an error in it. It says 3'6", but we are putting it back at the height that it is at, which was 2'8". We can do this because you can actually, you do not have the ability to step out on that Juliet balcony. There's a sill in the interior that prohibits you from stepping out on that Juliet balcony. Next slide. When we change the doors, we will be putting new locks on them. So the specification and the finish, which will be a black finish, are shown on the slide 4. And then the owner would like to use a dark bronze for the finish of the new security grille work on the doors, which is an upgrade from the existing painted ironwork. The railing above will be a painted wrought iron. And we are showing here the brick, that's the Flemish bond brick that is being maintained in the building. The existing stucco, which is the pediment below, that is being maintained, and then the grille work of the windows, which I had said are part of a separate application. Next. This is the detail. So we are proposing to include 2 decorative elements on the railing above. And we are proposing to move those away from the windows so that you can see the stained glass, the leaded glass windows that are being put back in place in the building. And then we've taken that motif and repeated elements of it into the grille work that we're proposing to use on the doors. You can zoom out. Next. Oh, that's our last slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jordan, are there members of the public who wish to speak to the application?
Let's see. If you are a member of the public and you have any questions or comments about this application, please click the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Otherwise, I am not seeing anyone.
Okay, so we can go to the committee in alphabetical order.
All right, then we will start with Bill.
Hi, thank you. I will support this application. They seem the proposed work is limited to scope and appear to preserve the building's overall historic character. So I appreciate the modification of focus on the existing entry door and the second floor balcony rather than a significant alteration to the facades. So I don't see an issue. I support this application.
Thank you, Bill. All right, next up is Elizabeth.
Yes, I think this is good, but up to a point. I think that the second floor balcony railing fits in very well. I think regrettably this building doesn't fit well into the Treadwell Farm. And I think perhaps the current front doors are too plain, but I'm afraid I think that these are too decorative for a brick building, which doesn't fit, this building doesn't fit into the Treadwell Farm, but it probably is more related to Georgian brick buildings. And so I think that this is these doors have to be made more plain, not just total stripes like they are, but I think that doors need a little less decorativeness. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, next up is Michelle.
Yes, thank you. Can I see the original design of the balcony railing?
Go to the photo.
The existing, yeah.
Go to the photo. That's probably the best. Good to. Yeah, we can show you this one.
That's this one, yeah. Is there any reason why you're not keeping this? I understand that it's in disrepair and it needs replacement. But is there any reason you're changing the design?
The owner wanted to see something different on the building. They didn't care for it, you know, as much as, well,
So just for that reason. So can
the-
go ahead, sorry.
sorry, the other reason was since we were taking down this fake hedgerow behind it to also showcase the windows. So we moved the decorative to in between the windows.
Yeah, which I think is great. You're going to show the windows. I think you would see them on this one as well if there weren't any planters behind them. You would see the full window. This is just as revealing. Now, can I see the original front door?
Sure.
And is there any reason you are changing that?
Same, to do something a little bit more, I'm going to say special, a nicer material, being that we wanted to use the bronze. And we
Mhm.
use, quite
And
frankly,
what are these made out of?
these are wrought iron. These are, they're frankly, they're a lot of stock Julius Bloom.
Mhm. Well, I think it's great that you're replacing there in disrepair, and you need to for the balcony for sure. And aesthetically, if you want to change it, that's true. But that's fine. But I do agree with Elizabeth. I think it's a little overkill on the doors, and I don't really see the reason for the change in design on the balcony either. And I think without the planters, you would see the stained glass behind it in either case. So I sort of question that. There isn't anything terribly special about these, but they do go, and they go with the building, and the other one is quite ornate. I would think there would be something in between, and I think the others are far too ornate. You say that they relate to the balcony above, but I don't think that they do. I think that they overwhelm it.
Well, the motifs are, we married motifs, the urns together.
You brought an element in, yes, but
One of the concerns that the owner and we did have is um, the, the design. One of the requests was to do something that had a little bit more, shall I say, intricacies in it so that it would provide a sense of more security and that you couldn't, reach your hand.
so you mean more coverage of the glass, in other words. Okay, that makes sense. I think you can achieve that though in something less ornamental that to me overwhelms the balcony. You may have repeated an element, but the density and of the design, I think it overwhelms it. Anyway, I'm thinking about this. Those are just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, next up is Miles.
Hi, thank you so much. I think that these changes are really beautiful, especially on the door. I did have one kind of question and comment though. For the diagrams on slide 11 and 12, I think for the balcony, it's missing its flank for the existing conditions. It's missing its flanking kind of designs for the existing condition. If you go to the left.
We'll go back to the photo.
Yeah, because in the photo there's three of those kind of circular designs, but then in the diagram there's only the one in the center. So I thought that would be important to point out. And I appreciate the change from those kind of three because the two on the right, to me, when you're just looking at it, detract from the viewing of the windows. But moving it to two in between the windows, I think is a really smart decision. And I also empathize with your desire to have a more covered door, so I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Miles. All right, next up is Sean.
I would support this. I rather like it and would support it.
Thank you, John. Okay, and next up is Kim.
Hello, and thank you so much for this presentation. I hear Elizabeth and Michelle's points about it being too ornate, but I think I like it anyway. I can be swayed, but as of right now, I think this is lovely and I can support it.
Thank you, Kim. Next up is Marco.
Thank you for the presentation. Can I see the whole facade, the existing whole facade in a picture?
Yes.
That one. Okay, leave it right there. The two wide entrance porticos, each featuring a simple cornice supported by two columns, created an strong contrast with the dark brick facade. This composition is complemented with the delicate wrought iron detailing at the entrance. The proposed wrought iron design, however, is too busy and visually dominant for the dark brick facade and is therefore considered inappropriate. The existing row window fence and Juliet balcony have a simple design composed of three elliptic motifs, each aligned with one of the three windows. In your design, however, only one elliptical motif is shown, whereas the proposed design introduces two decorative elements that differ from the existing pattern. This alteration is inconsistent with the original landmark architectural detailing and is therefore considered inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. All right, next up is Adam.
I thank you for your presentation. I think for a no-style building that is a little bit out of scale and character with the neighborhood, that the additions seem appropriate, and I'm likely to support this.
Thank you, Adam. All right, and then Christina.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. And don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Christina. All right, co-chairs, David, Jane.
David, you may go first.
As far as the company, I think you did the right thing.
We're losing you, David.
As far as the balcony railing goes, I think you did the right thing. You made the windows transparent through the railing, and you put the decorative elements in front of the piers. I think that's fine. I think you could have done it either way, but I think what you did is fine and is okay for the building. I have sort of 2 points of view about what you did with the doors. On the one hand, I agree with Elizabeth and Michelle that I think it's almost too much for this building. On the other hand, I can imagine how hard you worked to do that design, and the design in and of itself is very attractive. So at this moment, I am in an internal debate, and when it comes time to vote, I'll make up my mind.
Thank you, David. I hope you won't have much time to change your mind. I am going to support the application. It's a no-style building within the Treadwell Farm Historic District. The building is really, I think those doorways with those columns are really not something I would have ever chosen. So I don't mind the ornate doors. I don't mind, and I think agree with David about the balcony, the decorative elements changing to just two and making the leaded windows more visible. So I will support the application. I think we're ready for a resolution. Kimberly,
Motion to approve as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. So I think we can go to vote.
All right, perfect. Let me just get everyone unmuted and pull up the vote sheet. Oop. All right, so this is for 211 East 62nd Street. This is a motion to approve. Bill,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Abstain?
abstain. Michelle,
Pass for the moment.
pass,
Yeah.
okay. Christina,
Yes.
Miles,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Kimberly,
Yes.
Marco,
No.
Adam.
Yes.
All right, back to the pass. Michelle,
Abstain.
abstain. All right, it passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan. We are going to move now to number 2. 673 Madison Avenue, the Upper East Side Historic District. This is an Italianate row house constructed in 1871. The application is for the installation of facade lighting on both the Madison Avenue and 61st Street sides of the building. Is the applicant here? Yes, I see a raised hand. Thank you. Are you going to use a shared screen?
I am. If you could let Olga Kovalenko from my office into the meeting to be able to share her screen, that would be very helpful, as she is the project manager on the job.
Yes, everybody can share their screen.
Oh, okay. Very good. Good evening, Chairman Pershall, members of the Community Board 8 Landmarks Committee. Thank you for allowing us to present this project. I am Ted Bodner from Bodner Architecture. Olga Kovalenko is the project manager from my office.
Just tell me how you spell your last name.
I'm
Or-
sorry. I don't know why it doesn't appear. Bodner, Bodnar.
N-A-R. Okay,
Correct.
great.
And
Thank
the name of
you.
the firm is Bodner Architecture. It should show up on your application.
Yeah, I see
So,
it. Now I see it. Thank you.
Of course.
Sorry. Thank
That's
you.
quite all right. We represent the building owner, 673 Madison LLC, which are Friedland Properties as the underlying building owner. Just a fast introduction. The building, as I'm sure most of you have seen, is undergoing significant facade improvements and restorations undertaken voluntarily by our client, the new owner. The facade of the building was in a major state of disrepair and was damaged badly with safety concerns. And at our client's direction, we undertook the major restoration of the building. That was filed and approved by Landmarks and the New York City Department of Buildings. Work is ongoing. The object of this specific application is to install lighting to highlight the significant aesthetic ornamental details of the historic middle cornice, at this significant or this notable city corner and at the very edge and entry to the East Side Historic District. It is our belief that this presentation and proposal will help improve the building's presence at night due to its dark nature and would be inviting and lighting as an entry to Madison Avenue. Olga will continue at this point.
Okay, hi. I'm on mute.
You're
Okay, good evening, everyone. So here is our presentation. This first page showing the building located at the northeast corner of Madison Avenue and is this East 61st Street, right at the gateway to the Upper East Side Historic District. And these photos showing current conditions since our facade is under restoration right now. The second page showing the building in its broader context, including the full Madison Avenue frontage and East 61st Street frontage. It also, I mean, it's under scaffolding right now, but it also illustrates the building's prominent corner location and its relationship into surrounding historic streetscape. This page number 3, we want to show you how the building facade used to look before we erased our scaffolding. Here you can see the historic pressed metal cornice that we are proposing to highlight. Page 4 is for historical context of the building. On the left is an excerpt from the landmarks designation report, which identifies the building as Italianate row house constructed in 1871, designed by John Prague. And on the right is a historic photograph from the 1940s, showing the building at the corner of Madison and East 61st Street. And the image also clearly illustrates the prominent pressed metal cornice, which remains as important defining architectural feature and is being carefully restored as part of our current facade restoration project. Page number 5. These photographs show the condition of the historic pressed metal cornice prior to restoration. So over the time, the cornice experienced significant deterioration, including detached and missing sections. You can see deformation of metal panels and loss of decorative ornaments. One of the pineapples was missing when we started renovation. Page number 6 illustrates the post-restoration conditions of pressed metal cornice. You can see that restoration work, we reinstalled this missing pineapple at the corner of cornice, and actually returned the cornice to its original architectural character while preserving the remaining historic fabric. Page number 7. This shows facade elevation drawings, both Madison Avenue and East 61st Street, with overall proposed lighting locations, including the cornice lighting locations. So just you can see the idea that we're also installing lights at some facade elements, but this is being approved by staff level. Page number 8 illustrates facade lighting scheme. We would like to mention that not necessarily all these lightings will be used at once and at full capacity. And the lighting system will be digitally controlled. And it's not intended to operate at full intensity simultaneously at all times. We just show on our drawings how we want to illuminate the entire facade, but not necessarily it will be simultaneously lighting in the facade. Page number 9, these are details of our proposed lighting at the cornice. Here I would like to mention that we explored different options and we ended up with this one, specifically that the owner likes how the cylinder lights produce the lighting. And also these lights are very durable, energy efficient, and long lasting, because we explored some a little bit smaller lights and also strip lights, but those are not as efficient. And in fact, they can last just 2 to 3 weeks, and then we have to replace them, and it's challenging. These lights are very durable and reliable performance and long-lasting solution. The size of the light is also considerably small. And installation, so the wire, we will run the wires inside the, it will be concealed, beneath the cornice profile. And we have at the base mounting plate, which will cover all penetrations for the wire and for two small screws penetrations. Our page number 10 is visibility plan. So we're showing that, these lights are visible, but we will show you, this is visibility plan at East 61st Street. And our last page showing that we performed mock-ups at cornice. And as you can see, so we placed two fixtures, a real fixture and orange mock-up next to each other. And from the street level, from different points, we can see, we can spot orange mock-up light, but black fixture next to it on every photo is not visible from the street level. So I'll go back to this, and I want to say that in our opinion, this illuminated cornice is a defining element of the lighting design, and it serves as the building's almost like architectural crown, placed at every metapair of the cornice, at recessed part. It emphasizes its historic silhouette and creating an elegant nighttime composition, in our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that your presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Jordan, is anyone from the public present?
We have Matt Bauer.
Oh, okay. Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Yes, I'm Matt Bauer. I'm the president of the Madison Avenue Business Improvement District and actually a neighbor of this building. Our office is located at 29 East 61st Street, so just two doors down. Very familiar with the intersection, has been mentioned a few times. This is the southernmost point of the Upper East Side Historic District. So it is really a very prominent location within our district. But also the building serves as a very important gateway to the restaurant row that is on East 61st Street between Madison and Park Avenue. So on that block, we have Serafina, La Galou, San Ambrose, Casa Cruz, and of course, later down the block, we have the Lowe's Regency Hotel. And I can say firsthand that the block is not very well lit. And to have the additional lighting on this building will also create a more welcoming environment for visitors to this restaurant row coming from Madison Avenue. I really do feel that this is an appropriate addition to the district, will make a real sense of coming to Madison Avenue from into our historic district. It's also the first block of our architectural walking tour that we do every month with AIA New York. So it's just a very appropriate and helpful addition to our community. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Jordan, anyone else from the public?
Doesn't look like it.
So we can go to the committee in the reverse order.
Perfect. Then we will start with Adam.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to hear what Matt said. I think that the lighting is important, especially on corners. So I'm likely to approve this.
Thank you, Adam. All right, next up is Marco.
Thank you for the presentation. The restoration of the cornice is fine, which was approved by staff level. The scope of this review is limited to the proposed cornice lighting. While the lighting design has the potential to enhance the architectural appearance of the building, I have concerns regarding the installation of 60 light fixtures mounted directly to the historical metal cornice. Each fixture is proposed to be attached with two stainless steel fasteners and require a concealed low voltage wire penetration centered beneath the fixture. The cumulative effect of these 60 installations raises concern about the potential impact and the integrity of the historical metal cornice and the underlying brownstone substrate. The number of fasteners and the penetrations should be carefully evaluated to ensure that the installation does not compromise the historic fabric or create future maintenance issues. In addition, the submitted drawings do not specify which of the available beams angles, 10, 30, 50, or elliptical, will be used. This information is necessary to evaluate the proposed lighting effect and the overall visual impact on the architectural features of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. All right, and next up is Kim.
Thanks, Jordan, and thank you for the presentation. I wish that I mean, granted, this is a small enough change that maybe this is a ridiculous request, but just something that helped contextualize this outside of a black and white drawing. But I think that this is limited enough in scope that I can support this. But as always, I'm sure the rest of the committee will point out things that I'm overlooking. So I'm anxious to hear their comments. But thank you for your presentation. I can support it right now.
Thank you, Kim. Next up is John.
I'd be inclined to support this.
Thank you, John. Miles?
I would also be inclined to support this, and I appreciate Mr. Bauer's comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miles. Michelle?
Yeah, I had to step away for an important reason for part of the presentation. So I'm not going to comment on the aesthetics of it. But what I am concerned about and what I did hear about and what I'm always concerned about are attachments and things that are added to these kinds of buildings. And I'm concerned about the impact of the actual installation of these lights. I would have to be reassured that this is the least invasive way of installing them. And are you going into the grout or mortar part of the facade of the building, or are you installing into the main facade of the building, into the surface? So that's my concern about that. And did I hear correctly that there are 60 of these lights being installed? 60?
That's correct. Ms. Birnbaum, they will not be going into the brownstone or brick or anything like that. They will literally be fastened to the cornice itself. We spent probably 2 months with various lighting designers and contractors with respect to attachment. This is the most minimally invasive way to do it. We don't want wires running on the outside of the cornice so that would cross even more screws would be attached to it. We spent probably about a month with Landmarks reviewing this also, because they were asking if we could do vertical attachments, but horizontal attachments are the best ones, and they will be covered with waterproofing material to make it as rust resistant as possible. I hope
Ted, I'm sorry to interrupt at this point. I thought there were 31 lights altogether.
Correct.
So where is this
Where did
larger?
60 come from?
I
Does
think
each light have 2 attachments, each lighting
yes,
fixture?
that's correct.
Okay,
Oh,
so that's what Marco's referring to. Okay,
Okay.
sorry. Thank you, sorry.
Okay, so when you say the wires will be covered with a material to prevent rusting. But what kind of material would be appropriate to this facade of this kind of a building? He's muted.
Do you get
Yeah.
the prompt, Ted? Okay, I'll send it again.
Unmute, Ted. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I'm sorry. The wire itself will be running inside of the cornice, so it won't be exposed. As I said, we were trying to avoid having the wire on the outside, requiring additional attachments. So the wires will be inside. The screws are literally small 1/8 of an inch screws that will be covered with caulking and painted black on top.
So in order to get the wiring on the inside face of the cornice, you have to drill into the cornice and insert and run the wire, correct?
From the underside of the fixture, right.
Okay. And what about the pinnings of the actual fixture, the affixing of the fixture?
Those are two screws on the side of the fixture. There's no other way to get the light to attach to any surface for that matter, but they're literally two small 1/8 of an inch screws that get screwed into the metal. They would be covered with waterproofing caulk and then painted over with waterproof paint also.
And some of those fixtures will be there'll be uplights on a windowsill, is that correct?
For the ones below that Landmarks is approving, yes.
But different type of lights.
Yeah,
Oh,
those are-
yes, the same, actually, yeah, to highlight pineapple, yes.
Sorry, I didn't get what you said, Olga?
You are pointing out to these lights, right?
Yes, the lights that are being actually mounted on what looked like a sill, but I guess it's at the cornice of the window. Yeah.
Yes, window header. Yes, that's correct.
But Michelle, we're only dealing with the cornice lights.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about, how it gets affixed. All right, I'll think about this. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And we are joined by Sarah Chu, and I accidentally skipped over her. So, Sarah.
Hi, thank you for this application. I just had one question. It was really helpful to hear the explanation about where the lights are attached. I don't really have context for how bright they are based on the sketch. It looks pretty moderate to me, but I think that my colleagues who are who have more familiarity with the lumens and those levels can provide better context in their comments.
Yeah, if I can answer that quickly, this will not be super strong, the lights that we're proposing. I actually did write a note for myself down because I remember when Barney's, which was located diagonally across from us, did a major lighting scheme for their building. I mean, it was extremely effective, but we're not proposing anything to that extreme or that effect for our building. This is literally a nice, gentle light to highlight the cornice of the building.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, these are not going to be large Broadway holiday lights, Hollywood lights.
All right, next up is Elizabeth.
Yes, I love this building. The introduction to the Upper East Side Historic District is an historic building. And I think that this building has charm and character. And I think lighting it is a great idea. But I'm not an expert at sticking lights into masonry. So I really am concerned about how you would attach it, but I'm not going to ask questions because I don't know how, but I hope that with Landmarks you work out something that doesn't chip away at this.
Miss Ashby, just to alleviate your concerns, this is not being attached to the masonry or the stucco. This will be going into the cornice itself. And as Olga had pointed out previously, the cornice had considerable damage to it. Pieces had been essentially separated. We did a tremendous amount of work to reinforce it and make it a better cornice.
Well, the cornice is why you're doing this, and quite rightly so.
Yeah.
But it's physical, so if you're attaching it some way, I don't want it damaged or attachments showing. I wanted to be
Totally
what
agree.
it
The
is.
attachments will not be visible. They'll be on the horizontal flat plane of the cornice. Yeah,
Okay, thank you very much.
of course.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is Bill.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. I will support this application, providing the lighting is warm and focused on accentuating the building's architectural details without creating any excessive brightness or glare. So I will support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All right, next up is Christina.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Matt, for your comments. And I can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. All right, co-chairs, Jane, David.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you reinforce the cornice? Cornices tend to be sheet metal sometimes, and screwing into sheet metal is not my favorite way of attaching things.
One of the things we had to do was actually provide structural backing for the cornice. So we brought in our structural engineers to reinforce the cornice, tie it back to the building more tightly, and then reinforce horizontal and vertical members of the cornice. Because I had mentioned we had to do considerable welding for certain parts that had become separated or disattached. There was a relayering of metal for areas that were missing. It had rusted out, and then certain parts, like Olga had mentioned, like the pineapples had completely fallen off or disappeared. So those were restored and rebuilt and put back on. So there was considerable reinforcing within the underside of the metal of the cornice in order to be able to do this.
When you screw it in, is it being screwed in through the reinforcing?
There's a reinforcing, how would you call it? Member at the underside of that horizontal, so it'll be tied into that.
I think the idea is fine. I think that tying into the metal is better than tying into the masonry, because if the metal, for any reason, fails or has problems, it's much easier to replicate the metal than to start trying to fix masonry. So I think you made the right decision on attaching to the cornice. I think the idea is fine, and I certainly will support it.
Thank you, David. I too will support the application, and I appreciate Matt coming and talking about how important the cornice is in that gateway to the historic district. So I think we're ready for a resolution. Does anybody, Miles?
Motion to approve is presented.
Is there a seconder? Bill, Angelos, great. So I think we can go to a vote.
All right.
Jordan.
As per usual, give me just a second to pull up the vote sheet, get everybody muted. All right. Oops. Okay, so this is for 673 Madison. This is a motion to approve. Bill,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Christina,
Yes.
Miles. Oh, Miles is muted.
Yes.
Miles, sorry. David,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Marco,
Abstain.
Adam.
Yes.
All right, it passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, members of the committee, and we will do our darndest to do a beautiful job here so it looks wonderful for both the restaurant road, but also for the Madison Avenue entry.
Thank you.
Very much obliged. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. The next and last application is the Spence School. 58 East 93rd Street, individual landmark, and 130709 Madison Avenue, expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. Spara Grant AIA partner, MBB Architects is supposed to present. Is she here? Okay, we see you. Thank you. So I'm going to read you a long introduction. 1307 to 1309 Madison Avenue is Neo-Georgian style building designed by George V. Harvey in 1890 with updates to the facade by Moore and Lance Seidel in 1930. 56 East 93rd Street, the William Godbey and Florence Baker Low House, also known as the Low Mansion, was designed by Walker and Gillette and constructed in 1930. Application included extension at all floors into the two buildings' rear yard to provide internal connections into the contiguous lower mansion to their east, and an improved mechanicals and an elevator bulkhead. The building's rooftops will provide outdoor play area for the lower school. The proposal will require minimum exterior work on the mansion, primarily to connect to the row houses and its west lot line. The building's current Madison Avenue facades will remain in place and will be refreshed utilizing appropriately similar materials. The general organizational scheme and material composition of the facades will be retained, with the exception of the existing entrance doors, storefront glazing, and the added floors, new rooftop profiles. So now that I read all that, we'd love to hear about it.
Okay, thank you. I will go ahead and share my screen. Can you all see that okay and hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So first, to visually orient you to what you just heard, we are talking about the historic mansion on 93rd Street, and then 1307 and 1309 along Madison Avenue on this corner, as you see here. You will note, of course, the recognized role of institutions such as Spence to the overall character and street life of the district, as called out in the designation report, as well as the mix at the scale of the blocks of the scale, figure, and typology of buildings within the district. Spence, of course, is a longstanding advocate and steward within the district, and we seek to continue in this tradition. There are a number of programmatic needs that we are seeking to fulfill with this proposed addition. The first is STEM for girls and classroom space. The second is play and outdoor space. We do seek to make the new facility fully accessible. We also seek to upgrade the infrastructure. The current mechanical system of the mansion is at the end of its useful life, and so our proposed mechanical system will serve both the new row house addition as well as a replacement for the mansion itself. The mansion is, of course, an absolute gem and an individual landmark, and we seek to preserve it. The row houses where we are focusing the bulk of our addition are very different in nature. They are more modest buildings. They are stucco primarily on the front facade, and they have limited ornamentation. They were originally part of a speculative residential development by Ogden and Sons that was, prolific throughout the neighborhood. But then at a later date, they had their front facades removed in their entirety. So what you're seeing here are their original condition on the left, and then their later condition here in the 1940s tax photo here. So they are in fact characterized by a history of change, and what you're seeing in this series of diagrams is the extensive changes that they underwent over the first 40 years of their lives. So whether they were articulated as 5 buildings in the row as they were originally, or 3 or 1, the actual floor elevations changed, as well as some vertical additions over the years. The most significant of which happened immediately following the construction of the mansion. So this particular row is in contrast to some of the other rows in the neighborhood. What you're seeing in the upper right is a row, for example, that is very much intact in terms of their original ornamentation. Our buildings, in contrast, once the mansion went up, they lost their daylight or a significant portion of their daylight from the rear facade. And their original residential use had to be repositioned in a way. And it was at this moment in time when the new facades, as you see them today, were in fact created. So we sit within the history of this context, as well as within what you know is a variety of scales along Madison Avenue, versus the more residential mid-block scale of the mansion, which we seek to preserve. The commission, of course, has approved a number of expansions for institutions within the district. Some are modest in nature, similar to ours. Some are much more significant than anything we're proposing. And some do include the strategic removal of historic fabric. So our first step in seeking to accommodate the programmatic needs of Spence was to look at how to best utilize the non-visible bulk through a strategic renovation of the row houses, creating contiguous floor plates with the mansion, with efficient floor plates, and minimizing vertical circulation. So here you're seeing the interiors of the row houses that are not currently appropriate for institutional use. They are not accessible or safe. This section, to orient you, is the existing. We're starting at Madison Avenue. We're cutting through the row houses and then through the rear portion of the mansion. So this gym in the rear of the mansion exists today and was part of the earlier Spence moving into the mansion. And so what we're proposing is the renovation of that interior space. You're seeing these contiguous floor plates that align with the mansion. You're also seeing that in order to minimize the visible bulk, we are proposing to excavate down to the level of the existing Spence gym to accommodate classroom space. And then we are proposing a geothermal system, which will serve both the row houses as well as the mansion. And this will limit the amount of rooftop mechanical equipment that is necessary for the facility as a whole, taking it down from multiple pieces of equipment to a single piece of equipment with no cooling tower, which is the noisiest piece of equipment. The second portion of our proposal is, in fact, a rear yard addition where we are seeking to optimize the use of this rear yard space. It isn't, in fact, a rear yard at the back of the townhouses. There is currently a one-story extension, and what we're proposing is an infill on top of that one-story extension between the rear of the row houses and the mansion in order to allow us to create these contiguous floor plates and minimize the amount of vertical circulation. So here you're seeing the side wall of the mansion, the utilitarian brick. You're seeing that one-story roof that is at the rear yard of the row houses. And then you're seeing the rear wall of the row houses in this photograph that shows the kind of utilitarian brick and the replacement windows that are currently there. This is a sightline diagram taking through 93rd Street, and we're cutting across our neighbors toward 93rd Street. And what you're seeing here is 1311, the second building's in rear yard extension. And our proposed connection will be visible through this kind of rear yard at this location. What you're seeing here is the profile of the mansion beyond. And what you're seeing is that we're proposing to step back and shape our rear yard addition such that we maintain what we know is a very important element of the mansion itself. So now standing at 93rd Street, I'm showing you the existing and proposed, and what you see first is the mansion and our neighbor along 93rd Street. Beyond that, you see that rear yard extension of our immediate neighbor. Beyond that, you see our proposed addition to the row houses, and that at this point now we're 40 feet back from 93rd Street. And then to the left of that, you see what we're proposing as this glassy hyphen or link, which is an additional 2 feet, set an additional 2 feet back from the street line. And this is the portion that I was saying was shaped to allow that profile of the mansion to continue to read. And you're seeing we're looking as precedent to that, another project in the neighborhood where you see this kind of glassy link set well back from the street and connecting the historic fabric. The next portion of our proposal is the vertical addition at the row houses. And this is to accommodate the remaining interior program space of the classrooms. And so what you're seeing here is what we're proposing to do is to reset the cornice line of the two buildings to allow for this classroom space that you're seeing here, and then a one-story pop-up above that that we seek to define as a sort of artist garret typology sitting lightly on top of the historic fabric. So this then is a sightline diagram through Madison Avenue. And here you're seeing the row houses with the mansion beyond. And this is the existing parapet above the pediment facing onto Madison Avenue. And then what you're seeing here is where we propose to reset that cornice line at this new elevation with our proposed one-story addition above, and then mechanical and play space, which I will address in just a moment. So looking at here, you're seeing the roofs of the two row houses in question where we are proposing this addition. And then from the elevation from Madison Avenue. So while we never take removing historic material lightly, we do believe that in this case, given the humble nature of the material in question, and in order to achieve the most harmonious proportions for the overall proposal, we are proposing to remove that pediment, reset the cornice line, and then with this one-story pop-up addition above that, that would be articulated in bronze and glass above. So here you're seeing the side view of this on 93rd Street, again, set 40 feet back from the corner. We are proposing to extend the brick party wall up to the height of our newly defined cornice line, and then wrapping this garret language of the bronze and glass for the one-story pop-up above that along this side elevation. And then the last kind of program portion is the outdoor play space that I spoke about. There is, of course, precedent for this by other schools in the district. So looking here at a roof plan showing the existing and the proposed, we are proposing to replace the mechanical equipment that is currently on the back portion of the mansion roof, so currently not visible, with play space on the mansion that is similarly not visible. And then with the other portion of the play space being an enclosed play space on the portion, fenced in, enclosed, on the row houses, with the one piece of mechanical equipment that I mentioned towards Madison Avenue that will be screening. It will also provide screening for the play space. So we have the mechanical unit as well as our bulkheads that wrap that rooftop play space. So here you see that in section, and as with all of the other elements of our proposal, we recognize this kind of lower play space on the mansion is just surrounded by historic fabric. So the intent is absolutely to keep that mansion fabric exactly as it is today, and to address the need for additional play space by going to this rooftop space. So no changes to that lower play deck, really focusing our efforts on these upper portions. This is showing that sight line through 93rd Street to the mansion itself. This is the existing rooftop equipment here. And then this is our proposed play space, replacing it with a 10-foot high code required fence for safety, but again, set back from the street in that back portion of the mansion roof. So this is as it is today. And then showing the bulkhead extension of one of the stairs on the mansion, our play space fencing, which will be that vanishing coil, is what we are proposing. The play space on extending onto the taller portion of the play space, extending onto the row houses. That mechanical screening, which is proposed to wrap our stair bulkhead and our elevator bulkhead, and to be of the same bronze material but in screen form as the portion below. The last element of our proposal is the facade restoration along Madison Avenue. So this is as it exists today, and we are proposing to restore the stucco to replace the windows with historically appropriate windows, including at this new row of punched openings at this level, as well as at the storefront itself. Currently, there are no we don't believe there are any historic materials at the actual storefront. We are referencing the LPC's master plan for the work in this area. We are also conducting probes to explore whether there is any material to be salvaged, aside from the columns here. But in any case, we are proposing to put back historically appropriate storefront in this portion of the facade. And then beyond that storefront system, as a kind of interior art piece and screen. We are proposing this kind of finned system that will be designed both to allow daylight into the classrooms, as well as to provide for the kind of visual interest and street life along Madison Avenue. The intent here is both to provide for safety and security along Madison Avenue with some lighting, as well as to allow daylight and activity of the classrooms within. So these final pages show kind of in summary each elevation. So the Madison Avenue elevation as it exists today and as it is proposed, the 93rd Street elevation as it exists today and as it is proposed. And then the one elevation that I haven't spoken about is the rear yard elevation as it exists today. And then with our proposed addition, so this portion of it, just in the upper left here, would be visible where we are proposing to wrap a similar treatment. And then the work at the rear of the mansion here, we are proposing 2 new openings in a section of wall that is relatively recent from 2002. And then otherwise continuing the kind of brick and glass treatment in the new rear wall of our proposed extension. The materials I've spoken about largely, but we do have the new steel storefront at the Madison Avenue storefront. We do have the kind of brick and glass addition, as well as the bronze addition. And we do have the vanishing coil mesh at the play spaces, which is intentionally designed to be as transparent to the eye as possible. And then we do have a series of street views to show what this is intended, what the design would look like from different angles throughout the neighborhood. So here you're seeing that reset cornice line and the 1-story garret addition. You're also seeing the strategy of, really accomplishing the bulk that we need as far from the mansion as possible. So really making it possible to preserve the sightlines of the mansion. Here from a slightly different angle where you're seeing how we're stepping away from the mansion in more detail, looking back down 93rd Street past the mansion, looking in that kind of slot of the rear yard that I spoke about, what would be visible over the neighbor's rear yard extension. And then, standing directly across Madison Avenue, as well as looking down Madison Avenue toward the addition. So we do have a mock-up in place, and these are additional points that we have looked at with, and that is the extent. Thank you very much.
David, I'd like to pick up where Sarah left off, if that's okay.
That's fine, Shelley.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and we were happy that Sarah had an opportunity to show you the landmarks application first, but we have some brief remarks from others on the Spence team, which hopefully will put this into more context for the members of the committee. My name is Shelley Friedman. I'm land use counsel to the Spence School. Just for background purposes, this is there are 2 applications here. One is a certificate of appropriateness actually an amendment to the certificate of appropriateness issued in 2002 for the mansion. Several of you will recall that it was once something called the Smithers Clinic, and in 2002, Spence purchased the property and converted it to its lower school. We have a certificate of appropriateness for that conversion. And if you will recall, for those of you who were there, one of the strongest messages that we received from the community and from the preservation advocacy groups, and ultimately from the commission itself, was that we should do very little to change the overall character of the mansion as a freestanding historic residential mansion, as an individual land. And that is how the school has dealt with this property. Its stewardship has been, I think, quite impressive over the years to maintain that most important element, its appearance as a freestanding former residential mansion. And so that in 2025, when these two properties on Madison Avenue, 1307 and 1309, became available, there was great enthusiasm about seeing if we could connect those two properties at their rear yards to the mansion itself. And that's what you have just seen by way of this application. The second aspect, the second application, is therefore a new application for certificate of appropriateness for the adaptive reuse of these two buildings that will now tie in to the mansion at its rear yard and along the sideline of the side wall of the mansion itself. As Sarah pointed out, that requires a realignment of all of the floors in the two row houses, and that is also reflected in the work that you see to maintain the spirit of these row houses as they've been changed through the years, but in a manner that will permit the Spence School to achieve its programmatic needs a quarter century after moving into the lower school, in a way that is true to its original commitments with regard to the mansion and is appropriate to these two brownstones. With regard to the programmatic necessity for this change, I would like to turn it over to Felicia Wilk, who is the head of the Spence School. She will then turn it over to Eric Zauler, who is the director of teacher and learning at the lower school. And then the final speaker in our presentation will be Kimberly Travis, the new chair of the Board of Trustees of the Spence School. And then we'll all, of course, come back to answer whatever questions you may have. And I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have about the history of these certificates and how we come to this point. So with your permission, David, I'll turn it over to Ms. Wilk.
Fine, thank you, Shelley.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, David. And good evening, everyone. My name is Felicia Wilkes. I'm the head of school at Spence. And as you know, Spence has had the privilege of being a part of this historic district since 1929, when the school engaged John Russell Pope to design our flagship building, which is still on East 91st Street. Since then, the school has expanded through the restoration and adapted use of two other landmark buildings, the Low Mansion, which we just discussed, and 17 East 90th Street, which is now connected to our 91st Street building. As I hope you can see in our presentation, the incorporation of the two Madison Avenue row houses to the Low Mansion represents a generational opportunity for our school. It will allow us to better fulfill our mission as a girls' school while creating very, very much needed space to enhance the educational experience of our youngest students. I'm the graduate of a girls' school myself, and I have to say that this project of aligning our facilities with our programmatic needs is absolutely mission critical. And throughout this planning process, which has included our entire community from trustees to parents to teachers, we've really been guided by our deep commitment to preservation of these landmark properties. We've worked closely with our architects at MBB, our board of trustees, and school leadership to take really, really great care to ensure that the design preserves the defining architectural character of the Low Mansion and our goal of building a connection to these row homes while making modest additions to the Madison Avenue buildings themselves that will serve our educational program. Many of our trustees are also alums, who grew up in Carnegie Hill and are now raising their own families in the neighborhood. And our board chair, Kimberly Kravis, who you'll hear from in just a moment, is one of those people. So thank you so much for your consideration. While we absolutely have students from all over the metropolitan area, we consider ourselves a Carnegie Hill neighbor. And with your support throughout this project, we will continue to seek to engage with our neighbors and the community. So next, my colleague Eric Zoller, who's the Director of Teaching and Learning at Spence, will share a few words about the curricular needs that have shaped our design.
Thank you, Felicia, and good evening, everyone. So this proposal is the result of a really carefully considered planning process, including trustees, administrators, faculty, parents, architects, engineers. Throughout that process, we've grounded ourselves in really a simple question, which is what spaces do children need to learn well, not just for today, but for decades to come in our next quarter century. I'm Eric Zoller. I'm the Director of Teaching and Learning at Spence. I've been part of the Spence community for the past 24 years. During that time, I've had the privilege of watching our educational program evolve within this vibrant neighborhood. Throughout those years, the footprint of the lower school has really remained the same. And we've worked very hard to make every square inch of the building serve our students well. And we've reached the point where creativity alone is no longer enough. We're really beyond the outer limits of what our building can hold. My job is to think about how children learn and what teachers need to help them thrive. From that perspective, I can tell you that this project is not about just adding amenities, it's about giving children the spaces they need to learn. Young kids learn by building, by experimenting, by creating, by asking questions, by working together. And they're growing up in a world where engineering, computing, and design are increasingly important. Our 9 new proposed classrooms will provide dedicated space for engineering and STEM, science, art, and music, subjects that too often compete for spaces that are not suitable for them in their increasingly specialized work. As an example, right now, our STEM lab is really half a classroom, which is inadequate to housing our program, especially given changes in technology. The proposal also addresses practical needs that affect students every day. Right now, some of our students eat lunch at 10:45 in the morning because we don't have enough dining space. And perhaps some of you have seen the pasta that gets shuttled up Madison Avenue by our kitchen team, given the current kitchen that's really too small to prepare it at 93rd Street. Finally, the project creates critically needed outdoor learning and play space that you heard Sarah talk about. For young children, those spaces are essential to their learning and development, places to explore, collaborate, imagine, and develop confidence and physical skills. Ultimately, buildings don't educate children, teachers do, but the spaces that we provide for that learning really matter. This project will give our students learning environments that match the quality of the education we strive to provide every day. I'll turn it over to KK.
Thank you, and thank you, Eric, and good evening, everyone. I'm Kimberly Kravis, a proud alumna and a parent in the school, and tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Board of Trustees who look to the Madison Avenue project as a generational opportunity that is both strategic and thoughtful. On a personal level, I've grown up in this neighborhood. I was a student during the addition to the 91st Street building that transformed the school, and I've been a parent and a trustee during the recent projects. What remains a constant at Spence is its thoughtful, strategic, and community-minded approach. As a parent, I've experienced the joyful place of learning that we have created in the lower school. And for the trustees, putting students and program at the center of every decision is a high priority. The trustees are stewards of this fine institution, and we take our job to care for the school, its mission, people, and resources very seriously. We are committed to engaging in this process with good care and a thoughtful approach to our neighbors and our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Shelley, I assume that's the end of the presentation?
We're happy to answer your questions, Mr. Chairman.
And I have one question. Are we considering an amendment to the original certificate of appropriateness as well as a new certificate of appropriateness, or just the new one?
No, you're considering both.
Okay.
David, there are 2 applications in. The modifications to the 2002 certificate of appropriateness will cover the actual connection between the buildings at the side and rear lines, which are not visible, but nonetheless touch upon the structure of the designated landmark. The play space that you see will be partially on the mansion. And thirdly, the rearrangement of the mechanical space, the removal of a lot of mechanical space on the two row houses, and the relocation of it on the mansion due to the introduction of the geothermal plant that Sarah described, also requires a modification of the 2002 certificate of appropriateness. Everything that was explained to you with regard to the two row houses will be in the format of a new certificate of appropriateness, applicable to those two row houses. Without getting too far into the weeds, unless you prefer the weeds tonight, these are going to be all merged into a single zoning lot. But from a landmark standpoint, they're two individual lots and need to be treated that way.
We're only interested in the landmarks aspects tonight. Shelley, we leave the rest to you. And but it was important for us to understand that we're voting on two conditions, not just one, which is the way it came across in the description to us. So we will take that into consideration as we go forward. Now I'm going to leave it up to Jordan to figure out who has raised their hands in what order, and to take each person from the community in order. So
Perfect.
Jordan, I'll put it in your hands for the moment.
Sounds good. And then David, just a quick question. Do you see a future in which these will be two separate motions?
I think we have to see how the discussion goes, but I think if there are two C of A's, we have to vote on two C of A's. It seems that it's fairly simple. I mean, we can keep it fairly simple for ourselves in terms of the enlargement of the mansion, which is horizontal, correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, and the vertical enlargement of the row houses.
But with your invitation, David, the mansion is not being expanded horizontally as much as at the point of its property line where it meets the rear yard of the two row houses. There's going to be these are going to be now interconnected. It's the interconnection, not the increase of the footprint of the mansion. That's that is that application.
The interconnection is the amendment. Is that correct?
The interconnection is the amendment, and the certificate of appropriateness, the new certificate of appropriateness for the row houses, includes expanding the two rear yards to the mansion wall.
Very little for the mansion.
Yes, as the mansion is about the rooftop, the structural integrity of the interconnection, and the relocation of mechanicals.
Okay. So with that understanding, let's move forward.
All right. So now it's time for members of the public to ask questions or make comments on this application. How we're going to do this is I will go down in order from who raised their hand first. So first come, first serve, we'll go down that order. Since we have quite a few hands raised, for the interest of clarity and making sure everybody can get their comments in, please avoid as much crosstalk as possible as I unmute you. All right, so then first first on the list will be Bill Brothers.
There. My name is Bill Brothers. I'm a co-chair of the Land Use Committee of Civitas and also on the executive board of Civitas. We reviewed the presentation last week and we prepared a document or a simple summary of our comments. Civitas respects and supports the overall educational mission of the Spence School, recognizes and supports its desire to enhance its academic facilities. However, the proposed expansion as currently presented reflects a design that inflicts permanent harm on street level vitality, community security, and the visual historic character of Carnegie Hill. The proposed build out involves the institutional conversion of 1307 to 1309 Madison Avenue, two critical mixed-use buildings located directly adjacent to the school. The primary purpose of this application is to absorb those non-institutional neighborhood properties into upgraded private academic space within the expanded Carnegie Hill Historic District. This proposal directly threatens our local economy by completely removing active street level retail. In urban planning, active storefronts are the lifeblood of the neighborhood. They draw foot traffic, keep sidewalks illuminated, provide what Jane Jacobs famously called eyes on the street. The natural passive security provided by daily shopkeepers and patrons. Replacing a vibrant food market and local services with a closed private institutional facade creates a dark, dead zone on the block after dismissal hours. This deactivated street front compromises pedestrian safety and diminishes community safety. Moreover, the visual violation of the historic roof line fails to respect the intent of the special Madison Avenue Preservation District. The proposed one-story vertical addition disrupts the uniform scale and historic rhythm of the classic row house block. The addition will be explicitly visible to pedestrians looking up from Madison Avenue and 93rd. What the community will see from the street is an industrial-looking profile that is entirely incompatible with historic district. And the enduring character of the Upper East Side relies on preserving both the active small shops and its consistent historic scale. This project fails on both fronts. It deepens our streetscape, it deadens our street, and incompatible architectural profile with plain blue. To protect our neighborhood's historic fabric, incentivize Spence to include mandatory retail space on the ground floor and improve its design by voting no to this proposal as currently presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. All right, and then next, who has their hand raised is Ariel. Ariel?
Hi, thank you. As a former student, alumna, current parent, and trustee, Spence has been a part of my life since I was 5 years old. My long-standing connection to the school really allows me to speak with great confidence about Spence's deep commitment to its history, its legacy, its students, and the surrounding community. I can also speak as a prospective neighbor as I live just a few blocks away on Madison and 90th Street. Spence's stewardship of historic buildings and prior landmark work reflect its commitment, as well as the ethos of the school, rooted in Clara Spence's vision of educating women who contribute and engage meaningfully in the world around them. I'm one of the many alumni who have returned to and invested in this community, and I strongly believe that the proposed expansion will allow Spence to continue its legacy and providing it with the resources needed to continue to educate future generations of women who will become active and engaged members of this neighborhood and the broader community beyond.
Thank you, Ariel. All right, next up we have Bryce.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bryce Marcus. I live on 81st Street, and I'm the father of 3 Spence girls. All 3 started Spence in kindergarten, so I spent the better part of the last 20 years walking my daughters to school through this neighborhood. I'm also on the Spence board, but I'm here tonight speaking for myself, really as a parent and a neighbor. I live right around the corner from PS6, and one of the things I've always loved about living here is having a school as part of the neighborhood. Kids walking to school, parents on the sidewalk, teachers and staff coming and going. It brings energy and joy to the block. And I think it brings a sense of safety too. A school is full of people who are present and who care about what's happening around them. I've come to believe schools add something uniquely positive to a neighborhood like ours. They bring life to the streets, they create community, and their presence gives an institution a very real stake in caring for the blocks around it. I think about Spence the same way. At Spence, we instill in our girls passion, purpose, and perspective. And as we discussed this project around the board table, I kept coming back to those three words. Passion is something I've watched nurture in my three daughters and in generations of all our girls. But how girls learn continues to evolve. Our spaces need to evolve too, giving teachers and students the room to explore, to play, to create, and discover what excites them. Purpose is taking care of what we already have. Our lower school, as we discussed, is a beautiful landmark building. It's also an old building that needs real work and ongoing maintenance. This project gives Spence the flexibility to do that thoughtfully and responsibly. And perspective is recognizing that being a good steward doesn't mean freezing something in time. You have to think about what you inherited, but also about what you're leaving behind. I've walked my three little girls through the doors of the lower school. They're definitely not so little anymore, being that one graduated. And I hope that decades from now, parents are still walking their daughters down these streets to Spence. I think this project will make sure they can. I strongly support it, and I hope the community board does as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryce. All right, next up we have Carolyn.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a neighbor directly across the street from the Spence Lower School on 93rd Street. And an owner of a unit, and I was also asked to speak not only on behalf of myself, but also on behalf of our board president of our building at 55 East 93rd Street. We love having the Spence School as a neighbor. We fully support the efforts of the Spence School to meet the evolving needs of their students, but we have concerns about anything that might interfere with the historical nature of the building and our neighborhood. One of the things that's not clear to me in this proposal, that's not clear to us actually, is whether the facade of the building, the Spence Lower School mansion, will be visibly changed in any way. When you look at that building from the street, when you look up at that magnificent structure of that building, can somebody please address that for us?
Sarah can address that, please.
David, no aspect of the applications call for any work on the facades of the Spence building, of the mansion.
So when you look at the front of that building, will anything different be visible above that roof line? Anything at all about the front of the building?
I think we can, David, if you want to make this iterative, I can ask Sarah to go back to show the elevations, and you can see
I think
views.
the question is important enough that Sarah should please show us the elevation.
Okay, let's
All right,
do that.
let me just flip to that elevation. I'll flip to the overall elevations. Well, first as a sight line, so the portion of the work that is on the mansion during that prior renovation when Spence first took ownership of the mansion, we understand that this front portion of the roof is visible and was not considered an appropriate location for mechanical equipment. And so we really focused on this back portion of the roof where the mechanical work is, our mechanical units are currently, and that is where the new play space and bulkhead will be. So what you're seeing in this kind of partial elevation is that nothing on the front of the mansion itself, that front facade, will remain exactly as it is today, including the kind of slate roof and the clear stories into the classroom from that earlier renovation, and then set well back from the street is the new rooftop work that I spoke about. So in terms of the overall elevation, again, all of this portion remains entirely unchanged. And then really it is this setback portion of the roof where that limited work happens on the mansion roof.
And that work will
Okay.
not be visible from the typical viewpoint across the street. That's correct, Sarah?
Correct.
Okay, because that's one of our concerns is that nothing be done to alter the beautiful historical nature of this mansion. And I also appreciate, I appreciate all the comments and the efforts that are being made to provide for the wonderful school and the students who attend. And we really do support that. I do share some of the concerns also that were raised by the first speaker about the materials that would be used for this portion that would be connecting the row houses to the mansion, and whether they may seem dissonant with the historic nature and beauty of the neighborhood, which we're very invested in, along with supporting the educational mission of the school. So those are some of the concerns that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn. All right, next up is Robert.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Robert Fallon. Friends and neighbors call me Bobby. I live with my wife and daughters on Carnegie Hill. We're actually at 13 East 94th Street, which is, Madison and 94th. If you can actually almost see the lower school from our window, from the window behind me. And I've enjoyed this meeting a lot. I wanted to show you guys something. So this is my copy of Carnegie Hill architecture. So I'm an enthusiast, and so it's been fun to see behind the curtain a bit here. And I like to walk around and look at the wonderful landmarks. And thank you for preserving and growing our area. So I'm lucky enough to have two daughters at Spence, and I'm honored enough to be a trustee. And so I wanted to chat about the project because I'm really enthusiastic about it. Spence is on year 134, I believe. And we've only grown modestly over the years. I think it's 100 years now on 91st Street. So we've been in the neighborhood for a long, long time. And I will tell you, we've always tried to do so thoughtfully and grow it thoughtfully. And it's our goal, and that's our priority in this expansion application. We want to grow our footprint because it's really necessary for the girls and to provide our students with a world-class education. We've incorporated all the stakeholders, faculty, every consideration has been about, with the education in mind. I wanted to give you a few reassurances in case they're helpful. So I'm behind the curtain on the process. We meet very often, and we're constantly discussing the neighborhood impact. So we talk about the appearance, we talk about the flow of people, we talk about the construction project and how that will progress. It's been a full effort to ensure we go about this in the least intrusive way possible for our neighbors. I'm one of them. And then, I wanted to chat a bit about the retail space discussion because I can relate. Like, Patrick Murphy's, I could see it. The quality of life and the streetscape is really important, and we've chatted about it a lot, and we're going to miss Patrick Murphy, so I want to be super clear about that so I can relate. But we really need this space, and it's really more important, and I want to make sure I express that as a neighbor and someone who walks by. And the alterations to the front facade, they will be well lit. They are going to be beautiful. This isn't just going to be some dark storefront that goes away and like a dead space in the neighborhood. That's not the plan at all. Really, what we have to do is we have to prioritize security and the flow for students. And so for that reason, we have to sacrifice the retail space. And again, it's not our first choice. It's just we need the basement and we need that first floor. And also we have to line up all the floors so they are in sync. And so there are some adjustments that I think we showed on how the step down would work. And so retail space just wouldn't work, unfortunately. We also are a not-for-profit entity, as the schools are, and so becoming a landlord and having a retail tenant, I think that creates some other problems. And so I wanted to close out by just saying, hey, we're a big part of the community and neighborhood, and we take that responsibility really, really seriously. I will say that when people move uptown, a lot of times because their kids are coming into school, I tell them, hey, go walk around Carnegie Hill at 8:30 a.m. go see how many people you meet and see and wave hello, and just the drop off from all the schools and all the great vibes on Carnegie Hill. We respect that and we're part of it. And so thank you again for your consideration and also for your stewardship of the neighborhood.
Before we go further, I just want to say that we have provided a great deal of latitude in terms of ability to speak about this project. As I said earlier, what we're talking about as a landmarks committee is context and appropriateness. I also certainly think that the issue of use is part of that certificate of appropriateness with respect to this building. But to the extent that you can talk about the design and its context and appropriateness, it would be appreciated. I think you've made a very strong case for why you need the educational space. Now the question is what you want to do appropriate? So with that in mind, we look forward to continuing comments.
Thank you, David. All right, next up we have Jeff. Jeff, you're unmuted.
Okay, great. Oh, let me have a video, well, video or not. So I appreciate David's comments. Thank you to the board as well, clarifying the charge of the committee, which is one of examining the architectural harmony or not relative to the external aspects of the building. Everybody appreciates the school and its use. However, the charge of the board is the appearance of the exterior part of the neighborhood. So I'd like to address two things. One is administrative, the other is architectural. My understanding of the code or related to the committee is that postings and notice are to be done at least a week before. That was not done here. I don't know if that affects your hearing or the vote, but I would like that to go on record that it was not posted and noticed as is required by your code. On the substantive level, I'd like to address the fact that the design as proposed is disharmonious on two accounts. One, design, and two, scale, both from 93rd Street and Madison Avenue. For the record, I live at 1305 Madison Avenue, one of the adjacent buildings. Design-wise, those three units, 1307, 1309, and 1305, are joined by a pediment that connects the two of them very harmoniously. And yes, that building has gone through some changes, but the last change by your proposal is 1930. That's nearly 100 years old. So yes, things change, but that does not negate the historic aspect of something that's nearly 100 years old. So the design that you propose breaks up that harmony, changes the look of the buildings, and breaks the unity of that. The same could be true of the view from 93rd Street, which is broken up significantly by the way in which it's joined. And that then is directly related to the scale, both from 93rd Street and Madison Avenue. The scale of the additions are overpowering. An additional floor, a gym that rises above. Having been on a review board in another community, I understand there's a difference between what the codes allow in terms of square footage. So it might all be allowable, but the scale is disharmonious. It overpowers the view from Madison Avenue and as well from 93rd Street. So I'd like the board to consider both of those things, the small administrative matter and the disharmonious nature of the design and scale. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, next up we have Nishant.
Hi, everyone. Nishant Nadella. I'm a trustee, a parent at Spence, and a neighbor in the community on 85th Street. And David, I apologize earlier, but I think your audio, at least on my end, was cutting out. But I think you were specifically asking for discussion of the building itself, or
I was asking for
or the
discussion
utility
of,
around.
asking for discussion of the design of the buildings as they are being treated and enlarged, and and as we discussed earlier, context and appropriateness. What I did say is that we think that Spence has certainly made the case for the educational program, and that's not our purview, but we've given you a lot of latitude to do that, and I think you've made the case. The issue now is it appropriateness? Is this building or is this design and the two pieces of it deserving of certificates of appropriateness?
Thank you for that clarification. So I won't harp too much on the points that were made by others speaking on behalf of Spence. I'll just say, the trustees care deeply about balancing the needs of the school with the concerns of the community. I think, the amount of effort that the MBB team and the administration has in, making sure that the girls get what they need, not just for, my girls will probably never see this, but for future generations, while at the same time, making sure our neighbors' needs are addressed is very real. And hopefully we can leave something that the community can find harmonious for future generations.
Thank you, Nishant.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have Lo next. Lo, I sent you a prompt to unmute. I'll send another one.
I got it. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. My name is Lo Vanderval. I'm representing Carnegie Hill Neighbors. There's so many aspects to this project. One of the difficulties is that the grade level of the 93rd Street entrance and the grade level of Madison Avenue seems to differ by about 4 or 5 feet, probably closer to 5. And the school wants the floors to be all the same. And that has resulted in their need to effectively destroy the shopping story, first story, where the shops were. And they can never return. Once this project has taken place, those stores can never return. And that's a real loss, because Madison Avenue is known to be a shopping area. And even as far back as 1973, when the Carnegie Hill Special District when the Madison Avenue Special District was created, emphasis was placed on shopping. So that's one aspect that I just wanted to highlight. The other is sometimes you cite examples of other schools that have made huge additions. And I know that Bamford Nightingale falls under that classification, but it is not on Madison Avenue. And also, Nightingale was not in the historic district when the changes were made. So I think, I think we will cite the closest to Madison Avenue that you can come as an educational institution is St. David's. They had a huge renovation back in, I think, 2017, and they kept their small store on Madison Avenue. They made very modest changes. I think for a 7 to 8 story building, they added only 1 floor, and it's hardly visible. Of course, they had to go through 2 iterations. The first time they came before the Landmarks Commission, the commission was not happy and said, "We know you can do better. Go back and do a better design." And they did that, and they came up with a better design. So there's still hope for this project, if I may say so. because we agree with so many people that have spoken. First of all, that Spence is a wonderful educational institution, makes a huge contribution to our neighborhood, and we are not contesting that at all. But we are contesting what they are trying to do here, and we think they can do much better. One of It's been cited before, but the proposed addition disrupts the historic scale of this part of Madison Avenue in the Carnegie Hill Historic Districts. The addition will be far more visible than is typical in the historic district of institutional buildings. And three, the project changes the rhythm of the block. That block consists of row houses, no 3 and mostly 4 stories. The rhythm is special. It's been there for more than 100 years. It neighbors, of course, Hotel Wells, now a condominium, very attractively redone. But that half of the block has a special rhythm and a special character. And thank God there's still shops left, but we are losing 40 feet of frontage of storefront. And I know that you are going to make strong arguments that you have to do this. I won't comment further on that. I recognize what you say. Also, the proposal weakens the architectural integrity of historic buildings and historic districts. And in this case, for example, we know that this site occupies 2 historic buildings that form a group of 3, with the pediment in the center at the current top floor. These were cited. These 3 buildings and the pediment were cited in the Carnegie Hill Historic District designation report. And often people refer back to the designation report, which gives you, at the Landmarks Commission, gives you authority to speak to defend existing fabric if it's cited in the Historic District report, which on page 102 and 103, it is definitely. And they are identified as a group of 3, and the pediment is also cited. Moving on, Madison Avenue's commercial character should be preserved. And it's regretful what is happening now with the elimination of these shops, but that nevertheless is still a great wish in this community and people that are concerned about historic and architectural character, but also of a blending of the commercial character of the shops in Carnegie Hill with the rest of the community. Also, institutional expansion should respect the historic district, and we think I cited earlier, St. David's School did this, and there are no examples of any other school that is building or has built on Madison Avenue. So this is a first, and as a first, we would hope that they take very special care to preserve the historic and architectural character. This decision that the Landmarks Commission will make will set a precedent, and it will invite future institutional expansions. And that is a great regret of what is being sought here, if it's successful, without any changes. Also, we want to say that this is about compatibility. It's not about opposing Spence. There should be a way to create a more compatible structure. And one of the most elementary things that we see is the preservation of an existing cornice line. And also what Landmarks value so much is that when there is a well-defined cornice line, that you set back appropriately. And this will produce a more modest building, but it can still satisfy your needs. Maybe your classrooms won't be as big as before, but you can work around that. Some of the classrooms now are truly huge. So in closing, I just hope that that you will reconsider before you proceed, or that at some point you will reconsider. At some point, the board will say, can't we do this in a slightly different way? And that is our hope, and it's up to you. We can't force it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lo. All right, and then next up we have Katie.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Day. I live directly across from the school at 93rd and Madison. We are in one of the historic buildings on the corner. I just wanted to say we've lived here for over 6 years, or about 6 years now, and we've found it actually very joyful and very vibrant to be living across from the school. We do have 2 children that are there now, but I can tell you that Spence has been an incredibly respectful neighbor to the community, to the neighborhood, to the safety in the community. I cannot say that about every other retail shop and neighbor that's in this community. So I very much value living across from the school. I also think that it's important to note that Spence is, they take their duty as being a good neighbor very highly, and the fact that they didn't shut down the streets after COVID like all the other schools did is very telling of how much they're involving the neighborhood and wanting to involve us in the planning and the decision making and being very thoughtful neighbors. I feel like this renovation is quite modest in terms of what they actually need. And I would also say, I'm not really sure whose sightlines are being affected besides ours with the renovation. I mean, we're directly across from the new development, the scaffolding, the proposed new sightlines and heights are up with the scaffolding, which we can barely see outside of our windows. So I do find it minimally invasive. I do feel like they're being very thoughtful about the renovation and only doing as much as they need. And we are very happy to be a part of the school community, but also as a neighbor in Carnegie Hill. So I greatly appreciate everybody's comments, but I'm very much in support of this renovation.
Thank you, Katie. Next up is James.
Thank you. And I'm James Fedori. I'm a resident of the Wells, also a board member at the Wells condominium right on the corner. I think it's a incredible opportunity that Spence has to combine. And I, for one, don't think a school ever has enough space. So congratulations to all those involved. I'm sure it was a big undertaking, one, to acquire it and propose such an ambitious project. I don't think anyone would disagree that schools should have more space and every student should have bigger classrooms. So congratulations on acquiring the new space and looking at ways to combine it. My concern is with just the plans that were kind of set forward and looking at it just from the impact on the historical nature of the block. Just 2 things that stand out to me was I think there was a view line going back, and one of the things Miss Sarah Grant presented, which was really cool, was yes, the part of the facade you showed kind of has changed over the 40 years, but when you look back at kind of those changes, the sort of height of all those buildings has not changed, and that historical nature of the block has kind of been maintained there. I am in full support of the combination, but in a way that preserves either the setback or sort of the scale as it's currently proposed. Definitely kind of sets a precedent that is very comprehensive as far as the additional sort of rooftop building and the connection. But that was only my 2 points on it. I wish you guys the best of luck with the project.
Thank you, James. All right, next up is Joan.
My name's Joanne Haberman. I live directly across from Spence at 55 East 93rd Street. One issue that nobody else has mentioned is the open play space. During COVID, the children were allowed to play on the street. I live in a 28-unit, 6-story building, and the noise from the little girls' screeching voices was overwhelming to us. We had to close our windows. It compromised our quality of life, and we could not work or take naps. With the addition now of the play state on the roof, those voices, those little voices, will again be heard in our building. And again, we'll have to shut our windows and our life will be compromised. And that's a great concern for me and for the people in my building. The other thing that I would like to say, since I'm now looking at Spence, the addition to the roof, Carolyn asked, who lives in my building, asked about the addition to the roof. There is a significant addition to the roof. And granted, there's a setback, but I certainly can see it. And as Jeff mentioned, the construction is massive. And it will take away a lot of light for me and for the rest of my building. Furthermore, this is a cohesive, lovely neighborhood. And I wonder what this construction, which will take a long time and will be extremely disruptive, will do to our beloved corner bookstore, our beloved restaurant island, and the rest of the quality of life around the street. And in addition, the architecture of Spence's addition is so dissonant from the rest of the block that it is really unattractive and disruptive. And if anything happens to that bookstore, it would be a tragedy. So thank you for hearing me, and that's it.
Thank you, Joanne. Next up is Cheryl. Cheryl, you should have gotten a prompt yet.
Yes. The presentation I thought was terrific as a first iteration. I think the Spence people spoke very passionately about their needs, and they were very thoughtful about their program, and the architects delivered it. But we need to put this in balance with the concerns of the community, and particularly the diminishment of streetscape and what it does to reduce the vitality of the community. I think if you put this problem or this issue to a group of Spence girls and ask them to review both sides, they would come up with a splendid solution. So I think you can all work together to come up with something that will be more amenable to the community and that will balance Spence's needs, which now are expressed in a maximalist way. Of course, you want everything. Everybody wants everything. But to balance that with what we also need to preserve, as Lo Vandervalk said, preservation of that cornice line is absolutely essential. And I think that there are a lot of factors here, but again, my confidence is in the Spence girls to work out something that preserves their ambition of their school and also the vitality of their neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. All right, last up we have John.
Hi, this is John. I live in 1295 Madison as well. And Cheryl nicely sort of did a intro to what I was going to say. And so I actually, when I asked the board and the Land Preservation Commission to require the revised design of the architecture, because I think it's a little abrupt and massive. And I don't think we have any disagreement about Spence being a great school and nice member of the community, but it just seems a little too much. And so from the rooftop expansion, I want to see a little bit more detail. I was also concerned about the sound issue. And wanted to see what it exactly is being put forth there. And the height that's coming up, the recess doesn't quite go consistent with the architectural integrity of the neighborhood. So I want to sort of see a better, more refined redesign that is more aligned with what will be expected of the neighborhood, the Carnegie Hill. So I think I can also see that the school will need as much space as possible. I understand the school has about 270 students. And also being a parent, I also am aware of a lot of other schools with even more students, but with much smaller space. And so I think it can be done and not unreasonable to request downsizing of some of the massive proposals that's out into play. And so it would be good to know the sort of details of what's coming up on the expanded rooftop, as well as finally the timing. What are we talking about in terms of the overall completion of this project?
Thank you, Mr. Park. So I'm assuming that this is the end of comments from the community. And we're gonna now go.
Yes, I'm not seeing any
So-
other hands up.
So we'll now go to the board. And I think we'll just take it in order, starting with Elizabeth.
Or starting with Bill, actually.
Starting with Bill, sorry. Bill, you're new to the committee.
Hi, thank you. I'd like to thank you, the applicant, for the presentation. And also I'd like to thank you for the community. We hear your comments and concern. I do have concern as well regarding the appropriateness of the building. And I would like the applicant perhaps to evaluate the added floor that resulted in increase in roof height and see whether or not they could come up with another proposal that might be subordinate to the historic buildings and minimally visible from the public perspective. So that's my opinion on this. And I'd like to hold my judgment until I hear the rest of the board members.
Thank you, Bill. All right, next up is Elizabeth.
Yes, I think that this is an application for certificates of appropriateness.
Right.
And while I think that admire the school, my niece went there. I think that they're good neighbors in many, many ways. But the question is these proposals appropriate? And I think you only need two eyes to look at them to know that the answer is no. I'm afraid they are not. And I think I cannot support a certificate of appropriateness for this proposal.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next up is Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. What is the actual overall height, the maximum height of this?
Send another prompt to Sarah.
You for unmuting me. So our intent with the new roof line is to match the height of the mansion. So that is a total of 70 feet above our mean curb level. And then the mechanical screen and bulk cage are above that height. So for a total of 89 feet to the top of the screen, the fenced screened area.
From the street.
Yeah, from mean curb level, yes.
Right, okay. And the middle connection that you have of glass, that's connecting the two structures. How far set back from the street is that connection?
So that's 42 feet from set back from 93rd Street.
Yes, it's on 93rd, right. So it's recessed between the two buildings. And the buildings themselves sit back, what, about 10 feet, 12 feet?
Would you like me to go back to the plan?
Sure, if that's easy, makes it easier.
Let me just find the correct page here. So that 42 foot, that link, that glassy piece is here. And this dimension here is that 42 feet from 93rd Street.
From the curb?
No, sorry, from the street wall, from the face of the buildings.
Oh, okay. So it's 42 feet recessed from the building.
Yes.
And the building itself, what's the street frontage there? About 12 feet or?
Are you asking about this dimension?
Yeah, not horizontally, but from the curb to the building wall.
So the face of the mansion is kind of at the street line here.
Is that the curb? Is that the curb line?
No, the curb line is beyond that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. You have how many feet from the curb to the front entrance of the mansion?
Oh, so that is all as it exists today. There are no changes proposed there.
No, I understand. But so that 42 feet recess is in addition to whatever that is. And is there anything else on the facades of either of these structures that relate to the glass that you're proposing on the connection?
So there is glass that is at the top portion of the mansion, but our intent with the glass is really to maintain the integrity of the mansion as an individual building. So to clearly separate from it, because the history of the mansion is one in which I believe this group, as well as the Landmarks Preservation Commission, felt it was of utmost importance to maintain the integrity of the mansion as the mansion. So our intent with that glassy link is not to be a part of it, but to be deferential to it.
To define it as a difference, I think we all want the mansion to exist as it exists today. Can you show the street, the line of the mansion the connection and the other building?
Is this what you're
Yeah, you have another
asking
one that
about?
I think shows more frontage, if I
Um,
recall.
is it from this view where
No,
we're
but
sort
that's
of
all right.
showing
It's okay. It was an actual picture, I think, with that as an illustration in the middle. It was
the
more,
full elevation?
yeah, I think. All right, let me, and the additions at the top, this will do. The additions at the top, you said are, of the brownstones, you said are bronze. Are they bronze like slats to allow for ventilation of the mechanicals? Is that what I'm looking at the top floor?
For this portion,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
that's
that's
correct.
what I'm looking at. Okay, and that is that we're looking at on the right, the actual alignment of the windows in the proposed north elevation. That is the alignment.
You
The
mean for
the lower portion of this picture, right where the marker is now.
so this is the existing corner building as it exists today. This is the second building in from the corner as it exists today, including its rear yard extension. And then our proposal is the third building in from the corner.
And that's where you're building up, including mechanicals, to go to 89 feet. Or is that the building beyond it?
No, that is the top of our play
The play area,
and our
the play area.
elevator overrun
Yeah.
bulkhead.
As I look at it, just my reaction is it has too many elements. There are just, it's bulky and there are too many things happening, different kinds of material. I know for some architects, it's a philosophy to differentiate very clearly what's historic and what's new, but that's a very difficult thing to do and to get it to all exist in a harmony. And I don't see that here. So that's of concern to me. Let me also go to, I know we're talking about appropriateness, but it is important information to have. How long do you project your construction period here if this were to go forward as presented?
So we don't have a full construction schedule that we are prepared to share at this point. We
At
are
some
working
point,
on developing that.
at some point, will you share that with the community and the neighbors? And
Yes,
your proposals
absolutely.
for what your street needs are going to be, street closures, do you need a lane, all that kind of thing, so that the neighbors know what to
Michelle,
expect?
this is not part of our purview.
You're
And,
right, David, it
and they're not
isn't.
ready to do it yet, and it becomes a separate discussion, not with
Okay,
our
okay,
committee.
noted, noted. All right, I'm concerned about the dissonant components of this and the bulk, so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, next up is Miles.
Hi, thank you. Thank you all. This has been an incredible presentation. From my perspective, I try to support our schools in our district as often as I can, and I believe that should be the philosophy of the whole board. And in that regard, I would be more than willing to approve and vote yes for the a change of appropriateness for the existing structure, if that is going to be a separate motion, which I assume it will be. However, I have to echo what my fellow board members and what public members have said is that I believe in the purpose of this project. However, I think a lot of the visual and contextual parts of this is lacking. For me, it's the horizontal bronze beams to me is very jarring in regards to the contextual landscape of the surrounding buildings. So in that regard, I think that a difference in design would be important. However, as I said before, I'd be for the other alteration to the contextual appropriateness. So thank you.
Thank you, Miles. Next up is John.
I think I'd like to withhold judgment at this point. I mean, I've heard good arguments on both sides. I'm inclined to just think that the project is too much for the neighborhood, and in fairness to the neighbors, that really should be taken into consideration. But I would have to withhold judgment until I hear some more arguments.
Thank you, John. Next up is Kim.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation, especially the detail and how well, like visually it was depicted, the change in the Madison Avenue side of the streetscape impacting that part of the school. I think that was probably the best, at least in my experience on this committee, that I've seen. So thank you for that. I appreciated that history lesson. I'm going to echo what Miles and a few others have said in that this feels, specifically that rooftop addition feels incredibly jarring to me. That's my overall comment, is for me that is kind of the deal breaker. I have a question for the architect, but I have a procedural question for David and Jane. Given that this is a joining of two historical landmarks, but one is an individual landmark and one is a part of the extended Carnegie Hill Historic District. Does this affect where this addition is linking everything together? Does that impact how we view this? Is it part of the Madison Avenue side, or is it part of the individual? Am I getting too esoteric with this question? But it's something that I just didn't understand for this application.
Yeah, I understood correct from Shelley, and correct me if I'm wrong. The addition is part of Madison Avenue.
Madison Avenue. Okay. Thank you for that, David. And then for the architect, the question I had related actually to the ball cage. And I live next door to MS 114, aka East Side Middle School, and every single day, including today, I have to throw back a soccer ball that has come my way. When we say a cage on top of the building, do we mean it's essentially a cube on top that would keep the balls in?
We do, and that's actually required by code. So the portion on top of the mansion will not have a lid, and no ball play would be allowed in that portion. And then the portion on top of the row houses is intended to have a lid and be a ball play space.
Okay. And I guess it's on the staff of the Spence School to enforce that. I mean, they can only do as much as they can, but as someone who's lost a planter or two to errant soccer balls, as also that's at an elevation like that, that could be concerning. Thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Kim. All right, next up is Marco.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Can you put the slides, especially the massing of the proposal? I think you have several of them. Put any one. No, the other one, and that is an axiometric proposal.
From the corner?
No, you have an axiometric. Every time that you change the topic, you put a massive. That one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation. It was very clear and very focused in your point. This is my statement. Although the proposed rear yard additions, internal connections, and building renovations are generally acceptable, the rooftop addition is excessively bulky and out of the scale with the traditionally Kearney historical buildings and the surrounding row houses context. The sideline analysis of the north facade demonstrates that the addition remained visually prominent and does not adequately recede from public view. The comparison with other neighborhoods, larger buildings, and other proposals is not an appropriate precedent, as several appears oversized and were likely constructed before the designation of this historical district. They should not be used to justify the proposed rooftop massing, which overwhelms Carnegie's historical roof line and alter the established proportions of the buildings within the streetscape. The proposed Madison Avenue glass facade is incompatible with the Carnegie's architectural character and that of the surrounding row houses. Its extensive glass lacks architectural compatibility with the historical context. However, I commend the applicant and the school for incorporating a geothermal system as it represents a sustainable design feature. Given the recent Legionella outbreak in our community, it is also encouraging to see the use of geothermal systems that may reduce reliance on conventionally cooling towers, which has been associated with Legionella risk when not properly maintained. The drawings lack sufficient dimensions and information to fully evaluate several rooftop elements. Based on the submitted plans, the proposed bulkhead appears excessively tall and contributes unnecessarily to the overall rooftop massing. While the rear additions and the renovations are supportable, the rooftop addition should be reduced in height and bulk to achieve compatibility with the historical district. And thank you so much, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Marco. All right, next up is Adam.
Thank you for the lengthy and detailed presentation. I'm still mulling it over. I kind of share a similar position with John and Miles about design versus scale versus impact on neighborhood. So I guess we're all still thinking about it, or some of us are still thinking about it.
Thank you, Adam. All right, next up is Christina.
Thank you. Well, this is a dilemma. Shelley, remember, I was on the Landmarks Committee in 2002, and I live at 93rd and Park for the past 50 years. So I knew Carnegie Hill when it was very sleepy, and everyone said, don't buy above 86th Street. So we're very lucky to have all these schools and a vibrant neighborhood. But in 2002, Spence was actually too small when they bought it because they wanted K through 6, and they wanted to add an addition to the mansion. And the Landmarks chair, Jennifer Rabb, was chair at the time. And the neighbors, that's when the neighbors got involved, did not want to add the addition, so it went back to K through 5. I don't know what this new addition will bring with the 9 new classrooms. They want to go back to K through 6. But every school has expanded. Every girls' school has expanded. Burley and Chapin both expanded. And the site is the site. That's where Spence happens to be. They have one school, one place, and then they bought the mansion and they want to expand. So I'm in support of schools expanding because they all have to, and they all have. And they all have to get permission from Landmarks and from this committee. So it's not a perfect solution. Maybe there can be changes, but I think we have to realize that this is the community. We're going to have to sacrifice Patrick Murphy. There are always compromises when you expand schools. So I'm quite torn. My daughter happened to go to Brearley, even though I live a block away. So I understand how schools have to maintain their excellence. And Spencer certainly falls in that category. So I'm undecided, but I am certainly in support of Spence and what they need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. All right, co-chairs to you, David and Jane.
Well, I will speak first since I know David will be so eloquent. It's interesting to me that the two major not-for-profits who have such a vested interest in our Carnegie Hill geographic area, Civitas and Carnegie Hill Neighbors, have both suggested that maybe Spence could go back to the drawing board. I agree with Christina that these schools are excellent. They give Carnegie Hill the reputation that it has. Parents fight to get their children in so that they can get a first-class education. Schools do have to modernize. I, of course, work in an inner-city school in Washington Heights that will never be modernized. But I do agree, especially that Spence can do a little better on this. And I think I cannot vote to support this application. My two girls did go to Nightingale. I had a son who went to collegiate. I believe in independent school education. They provide the leadership our nation so sorely needs. But I strongly, strongly feel that this application, given the context and appropriateness of that huge rooftop addition and the streetscape at the ground level as you walk by, is totally out of context and inappropriate. I know that Spence can do better. They have a brilliant board of trustees, a wonderful new head of school, and let's see what else they can come up with. Thank you.
Jane, you were particularly eloquent. I'm not sure I can match that, but I think we would have been helped by two other important ways of providing information. Number one, I understand you're putting up the mock-up, but it's not there yet. When I looked at the building, I did see the beginning of a mock-up, and that beginning of a mock-up is beginning to look quite large. And I am concerned about the size of the addition. I also think some plans, not to spend a lot of time on them, but it would give us a better understanding of how the building works. And I understand that we're looking at the massing of the building and that the certificate of appropriateness has to do with the massing of the building. But in terms of my own understanding of what's happening, it would have been helpful to have had some floor plans and to see how the buildings really connect and how they really work together. And I think it would have helped make your case. I would also say to the newer members of our board, you do not have to make a decision tonight. You can make the decision to vote against if you choose to, because we have often had applicants come back if they have felt that our reservations were appropriate. And I'm not saying we have them at this point. I'm only saying to the newer members of the board, you can think about possibly voting no in the hope that they would come back. Or you can vote yes. And if we vote no, it can still go directly to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. It doesn't necessarily have to come back to us. I just want the newer members to understand all the options that are available. I would also say there's always more than one way to achieve a goal. And I think that from what I've seen, there's been a lot of innovation, a lot of really good thinking. And I understand how you came out where you did. On the other hand, I think I have to align myself with Jane and say that I'd love to see you take another crack at it and see if you could make it just a little bit more modest. Lastly, having looked at that block, sometimes you do have to introduce a new scale into a situation. The question is whether the new scale we've introduced is with this way that you are proposing to introduce is in fact the right scale. When you look at it against the apartment house, maybe it's pretty good. But when you look at it against the corner building, it really is massive. So I, for one, would like to see another iteration. And that would be my position as we go into voting. So, as I understand it, we have to vote on two different certificates of appropriateness. The mansion is the simpler one. I do see hands up. Normally at this stage, we do not open this up again to anyone. If you have a point of information, I will take it. If you have a speech, I will not. Kimberly?
Oh, down it goes. It does look like part of the application, Shelley is raising his hand
I'm
again.
going to get to Shelley because I want him to be perfectly clear for all of us.
And then Kimberly did raise her hand again, so I will go ahead and.
And I'm so sorry to be disruptive, but I wanted to call out that a member of the board, Sharon Pope Marshall's on the line, and I don't know if she wanted to add a comment. No? Okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
she's on behalf of Civitas tonight.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Has Sharon been listening to this whole meeting?
Yes, but really as a member of the executive director of Civitas. And
Well,
she can't really.
Civitas has had its opportunity.
Yes,
Sharon wears two hats. I think at this point, my understanding was that she was not going to comment, and I would like to keep it that way.
That's correct. Thank you, David.
Thank you. All right, Shelley, I would appreciate your helping one more time to clarify the few issues that relate to the mansion, and then obviously the balance relates to the Madison Avenue buildings.
I'll be happy to, David, but I raised my hand for a point of information, no argument, but simply to explain that the mock-up that you see there now is the mock-up that was approved by the landmarks staff in its entirety. And that is because, you know, the work involved was such to represent the mass deeper into the site that we agreed that they agreed that, you know, what we would show are, you know, the planes of portions of the addition. So there's nothing more coming, and that is what the Landmarks Commission asked us to do.
Well, I think that that's in many ways that's sufficient together with the drawings.
To your second question or clarity, I'll certainly try. There are two the mansion and the two row houses are on separate tax lots, and therefore that alone requires separate applications to the Landmarks Commission. The mansion already has a certificate of appropriateness from 2002. That needs to be modified in the three areas that I defined. One is simply the visible or not, the structural work of connecting the row houses to the mansion requires that there be new drawings and new inquiries into whether there's any question about the structural integrity of the mansion being compromised by virtue of the engineering of the actual connection, as well as to show that there are additional excavations involved. I did not mention this the first time, to accomplish the geothermal plan. Because there are changes in the originally approved mansion, we go back to landmarks as an amendment to the 2002 certificate of occupancy, and also for the playroom. So it's actually four different changes. One is the play roof. 2 is the additional excavation for the geothermal. 3 is the removal of a significant amount of aged out HVAC equipment that will no longer be necessary because of the geothermal. And the last is this issue of, are there any structural issues that need to be investigated when one knocks through the sidewall of the mansion to connect them to connect those floors to the row houses. The row houses on a separate tax lot are your standard new certificate of appropriateness for, as you said at the beginning, context and appropriateness. These are new questions being raised with regard to these 2 row houses, and that is a new application. It is one project, but broken into those 2 components because of the configuration of the real estate.
Ellie, thank you. So I think just for clarification on the excavation work, are these standing column wells that are going in, or is it something that requires a lot more excavation?
I need to refer to Sarah for that response, David.
Sorry, let me.
Needs to be unmuted.
Yeah, I sent her a prompt. Send you another one, Sarah.
Thank you. So the excavation work in the mansion is limited to the drilling of the wells. There's no further excavation work beyond that within the mansion property.
Well, I think that's a positive for a number of reasons. For anybody on board who might have been on the committee who might have been concerned about it, because we have had concerns about structural work on historic buildings previously. Michelle, I'll take a point of information, but not a comment. Michelle, can you unmute Michelle?
Yep.
Thank you. I'd like to move to disapprove.
You don't even know what we're disapproving yet.
The plan is presented.
Well, I'm going to break it into the 2 tax lots. The first we will vote on the amendment to the certificate of appropriateness for the mansion. So I need a resolution on that. Jane.
Move to disapprove. Move to disapprove.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay, so please call the roll.
All right, and then I'm sorry, is this for
This is for
Madison or
this is a disapproval of an amendment, of a positive amendment to the current certificate of appropriateness from 2002.
for which address? Between the Madison and the 56?
This is for 56.
56, okay, perfect. All right, let me just get everyone unmuted. Okay. All right, so this is for
A yes is a no.
56 East 93rd. This is a motion to disapprove. And as David said, a yes is a no. Bill,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Christina,
Abstain.
Miles,
Abstain.
David,
No.
John,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Kim,
Abstain.
Marco,
No.
Adam.
Abstain.
It failed.
We need a resolution for Madison Avenue.
All right.
Do I have somebody want to make a resolution?
Oh, I will.
Jane, you might as well. We know what's coming.
I move to disapprove.
Second,
Have a second. Thank you.
All right, so this is a disapproval for Madison. Once again, a yes is a no. Bill,
Yes.
Elizabeth,
Yes.
Michelle,
yes.
Christina,
Abstain.
Miles,
Abstain.
David,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Kimberly,
Yes.
Marco,
Yes.
Adam.
Yes.
That one passes.
Okay.
Jordan, could I change my vote for the previous one? I meant to say pass. I want to be a no on
Okay.
that. Thank you.
It still fails.
So it's important for individuals to have their opinions. In any event, thanks to the committee. Thank you to everyone from Spence.
Thank you. Thank you for your time,
We
David.
wish you well
Chair,
with the
members.
project, however you choose to proceed. And
Oops.
now I think we need, I don't know if there's any old business to talk about. Any new business? I guess it is.
David, could I just make one editorial comment here? Is that allowed?
Sure.
Because it's through the city of Yes that schools are now allowed to be in locations like this where the former Patrick Murphy's was. It's all part of the city of Yes. Thank you.
Well, without belaboring it, this is not the first issue that we have found with the city of Yes with respect to landmark issues. So we should be looking carefully at that. In any event, again, thanks to everyone. See you all Wednesday.